Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Hey, good evening, and welcome to the Welch Review. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really happy you could make it. Today we're talking about the fantastic Dan Trachtenberg sci-fi epic redefining character film that is Predator Badlands. I saw this in the D box at the West Springfield Cinemas. With my dad, my fiance's dad, and my fiance, and it was just such a good time, man. And like those things feel like a ride. It's like going, like you were at Disney kind of. It was really cool seeing that technology put into a theater, and that's probably been around a lot longer than like I've known about it. But it was just really cool. So if you can, definitely see some of those big movies like that, especially the ones that you think, like the Odyssey that's coming out soon, or Supergirl. Those might be stuff to like try and see in that format. But any case, back on topic. Predator Badlands stars Ellie Fanning as Thea and Tessa. She's pulling double sinner's duty like Michael B. Jordan. And Ellie Fanning, following Dakota Fanning, her sister's footsteps, she has built such a unique filmography in her own path in Hollywood. From Super 8 to the Hulu series The Great, which my brother Sam has said is fantastic, so that's definitely on my backlog. And then Nicholas Winding Refn's The Neon Demon on Amazon. So like she has just such range and really can just do anything from like real good character pieces to kind of art house horror to genre, specifically like Super 8 and what we're talking about today. We also have Demetrius Schuster Kolamatangi as Deck, and I apologize if I butchered that name, Mr. Demetrius. That's my bad. But Deck, right, our main predator, and we'll talk about more of that in a second. This one I thought was pretty cool. The actor, his name is Stefen Gruby, and Stefen, and he plays Quay. And Quay is Deck's older brother, and I'm an older brother, so it's like, oh, that's like, what a cool coincidence, you know what I mean? Now, Mr. Grube is traditionally an editor who worked on Prey, Predator Killer of Killers, and 10 Cloverfield Lanes, and each of those films happen to be Dan Trachtenberg productions, and clearly two of them are within the Predator universe, just like this movie. So Stefen is clearly very grounded in this world. We also have Ruben de Jong as Deck and Quay's father, and he was in The Warrior's Way, Spartacus, and Legend of the Seeker. The Warrior's Way, man, now that's a time and a half. I wanted to see that film just because there was a line when Joffrey Rush's character goes, "Ninjas, damn," and in the trailer, and then when we watched it, like it's one of those things you just hit rewind and rewind again, and it was truly fantastic. I remember when we got it, my brother, he fell asleep, and we were working at it wasn't summer camp yet, but he must have been doing soccer at the time. So he came home and he's really tired. So we're watching. He's like, "Stefen, if you keep messing with me, I'm gonna kick you." And I was like, "Sam, but it's gonna show up. It's gonna show up. That line's coming." And then sure enough, I did. I got a swift kick for waking him up constantly and rewinding that. But like it was just so funny. His reaction was priceless, and that line alone has made Warrior's Way worth seeing. So, Ruben, thank you for being a part of that production. You also have Allison Wright as Mother, which, man, there's a lot to talk about here. But Mother is a computer AI type character from the Alien universe, right? The company Weyland-Yutani, that's kind of their main interface is Mother on at least all of their ships. And Allison Wright voices Mother in this film. Allison previously was in the FX show The Americans, and she was in the Ben Affleck action film, The Accountant and The Accountant 2. I still have to check out Accountant 2, but the first one I remember was like a big hit, you know, and I'm not saying I'm the biggest Ben Affleck fan, but, you know, it was nice seeing him on a real tear, just one after the other, making like hit after hit after a while, where some of the things he was making weren't really properly received. So Accountant, great action movie, definitely I think was part of the Renaissance. I need to check out The Accountant too. And then we have Chris Terhune, or Terhune, my apologies, Chris, if butchering that last name, who is the voice of Bud. And Chris typically works in the sound department and has worked on The Batman, The Last of Us, and Alien Romulus. So that's pretty cool, right? We have our second like Alien Predator crossover in this in and of itself in this movie. So there's really three, but we're going to touch on that in a little bit. And then what's like a real pleasant surprise, and I didn't realize this, but like Matt and Ross Duffer of Stranger Things fame are pretty, it sounds like, decent friends and collaborators with Dan Trachtenberg, the director. He's directed some episodes of Stranger Things, and in return he has put them as the voice of Quay's ship's computer in this movie. So that's pretty cool. And then, my notes. This was written by Patrick Eisen, who also wrote Prey. He wrote an episode of Treadstone and an episode of Jack Ryan. So it seems like Prey and this are kind of like the two biggest, per se, things that he has dipped his toes into. But man, talk about hit after hit, like redefining the Predator mythos and mythology and lore, and just bringing it in a complete turnaround from where it was. So he's definitely doing the Lord's work here. And this, of course, is based on Predator characters created by Jim and John Thomas, who wrote Predator and Predator 2. And as I've said now, I think 3 or 4 times, this was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed Prey, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and Predator Killer of Killers, which was a fantastic movie and a real surprise to see on Hulu. Now, the other thing that's pretty cool is since Marvel is owned by Disney, 20th Century Fox is owned by Disney, so they kind of joined forces, and Marvel put out a prequel comic book that connects before this movie. And Dan Trachtenberg does a nice little like opening in the comic, in which he shares some of his thoughts about the movie and the book, and just what an honor it is to be a part of both. And the story in the comic itself is also like just really good. So if you are a fan of the Predator movies, if you're a fan of Dan Trachtenberg's work, go to your local comic book shop, and if they don't have it, maybe eBay, and definitely pick up a copy of it, because these characters, it's nice seeing them in more than one medium. But anyway, so that's kind of who's who, where you might know them from, and a couple little interesting tidbits along the way. The basic plot of this movie, and I know it's been out for a little while, so, spoilers per se, but I'm sure there's a couple of you maybe who haven't seen it or haven't watched the full thing, so I'll try and keep this as spoiler-free as I can. So, on Yautja Prime, or the Predator homeworld, there are various Predator tribes and colonies, and Dec and Quay are two young men coming into their own. Quay being the older brother is kind of the more favored, as he's bigger and stronger and a little bit more battle tested. Dec is extremely he has a really, really, really high perseverance, and I know there's a better word for that, so I'm sorry I didn't say that one, but puts his best foot forward. He's a hard worker, and he really looks up to his brother, and he wants to make his dad proud, his brother proud, and he just wants to be the best he can be. Now, unfortunately, their dad, not that nice of a guy, and really doesn't care too much about his children, only cares about, the honor and strength of his bloodline. So in many cases, that would kind of pit two people against one another, and it already kind of makes Dec very much like the underdog here. And so essentially what goes on is the dad wants Quay to do something that Quay's not really down to do, and ultimately results in a tragedy and sends Deck on this mission to this planet that has the most unkillable animal at the time, right? It's something so ferocious and fierce, like even their dad isn't able to kill it, or he is slightly scared of it, whether he admits it or not, but he is. So the Callisk, right? So Deck's like, I'm gonna go to this planet, I'm gonna get the Callisk, I'm gonna bring it back and prove to you that like I am worthy to be part of this tribe, and I am worthy of your respect, among other things. So Deck ends up going to this planet. He lands there in not the most delicate fashion, and while he's there, he is greeted by a series of harsh environments, brutal creatures, and a Wayland Yutani cyborg or artificial person, played by Ellie Fanning. And now Ellie Fanning's pulling double duty, playing two different characters, one of them being like, more like, hey, I want to study the animals, I want to form like a cool tribe, work together and stuff, and the other one's definitely like more battle hardened and all business and just looking out for the company. And essentially it's the one that's a little bit more like thinking about the environment, thinking about her connection with Deck, and and her, I guess, AI person sister, right? Even though they're not technically sisters, but like, yeah, wants to be like, yeah, we're sisters, we were made this at the same time, we look the same, that kind of thing. So essentially, like, the Predator mythos has just been like, hey, we're out here to kill, that's what we do, that's what we're good at. They're solo in many ways, they're like, they cull the weak, that thing, only the strong survive. Like, essentially just like Charles Darwin injected into a person is kind of what they are, right? With the survival of the fittest type thing. And in this, it flips that whole thing on its head, where it shows a predator who is both strong and is capable of doing what we've seen predators do, but kind of learn to change and adapt. Like, hey, this isn't always the path that it has to go on. And we've only seen how ruthless they are, but and I know primarily the only real like humans that we see in this are Ellie Fanning, who does a fantastic job, and we'll talk about that, and some of the other actors who play synths. But there's like a lot of emotion that comes with Deck, and his mandibles and his facial expression, and so like forgive me, his name is Demetrius, like really does a good job showcasing that, through his physicality, through his facial expressions, and makes you really root for a predator, which maybe in some movies you did, and in some other movies you're like, yeah, I don't know about this, you kind of want the people to get away, or but you know what the predator's going to do. So it's nice seeing the predator not just as like a horror monster villain, and more so like in charge of their own destiny and being able to adapt and change. Like, not all people are good, not all people are bad, not all predators are predators, and that's pretty cool to see. That change. And Dan Trachtenberg, I think, pulled off something that probably wildly was considered like not doable, or like, I don't know if people were going to buy into this, but like, he's definitely made it his own sort of like space opera in a way. And I think that's pretty impressive, considering it started as like, an action horror film, where Arnold and his team are being hunted in like the Colombian jungle of South America, to now a son trying to prove himself to his father and bring honor to his tribe. And that's all I can say, because I was about to spoil it. But this is a really well shot film. The special effects are top of the line, the CG is top of the line. It's something like you can watch at really any time, right? It has like endless rewatchability. I really enjoyed it. My socks were knocked off seeing this in the theater, and I really hope that this opens the door to many more adventures for Deck, and you'll see who else. But I hope that there are many sequels in the works, because the rate they're going with Prey, Killer of Killers, and now this, I think they're really finding their stride, and the world needs more of the Yautja in it. So until next time, this has been the Welch Review. Pick up or check out Predator Badlands whenever and however you can. You will not be disappointed. It is a really, really fun movie, and the comic as well was really good. A separate note, I've recently started getting into comics more, and I think I might start doing maybe some comic reviews on here. I don't know if that's something you'll be interested in, but I feel like it's worth a shot just to see, what happens. Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that. But I appreciate you stopping by. I hope your week's been going well, and I hope the rest of it is gold. And you're gold. Have a good rest of your day. This has been the Welch Review. Sorry, we're not done yet. I just realized I never talked about Ellie Fanning. I hit the end button, and I just realized we never talked about her. So as I said before, she plays two characters, Thea and Tessa. One of them is a little bit more sweet and wants to study the environment and be at peace with those in said environment and the environment itself. And the other one is definitely more of like a company person. And she does that extremely well. There are not a ton of movies in which an actor has played dual roles in it. I know, Eddie Murphy obviously has done it in his career. Mike Myers has done it in his career. Nicolas Cage, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Will Smith, and Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. Those are the ones that come off of the top of my head. But in terms of I feel like really hit home the most, I would say would have to be Ellie Fanning and Michael B. Jordan. And their performances in their respective films. And Michael winning the Oscar, not only in a horror movie and a genre film, I feel like also should open the door to Ellie Fanning also being nominated for this. It's a shame that she wasn't, because she delivered equally just a master class in how to differentiate while looking the same, which is pretty wild. In just how she spoke with herself, and it looked like she didn't skip a beat, or how the whole shot was constructed by Trachtenberg. They really clearly methodically thought that out. And she's just operating at the top of her game. So the sky's the limit, I feel like, for where this could go. But I also feel like now that Sinners has kind of opened that door, hopefully more performances like hers won't go unnoticed and will be part of the conversation, because irregardless whatever people's takeaway is from this movie, if you liked it, if you didn't, I really feel like there's no denying that she did turn in a performance that was truly really good. And also it was super cool to see Alien Universe and Predator Universe crossover again. I know we saw that in AVP and AVPR, and whatever your feelings on those movies are, we have reviews of them on here on the channel. But hopefully this means that there's more of that to come, because I feel like it was really creatively injected into this movie. And it totally makes sense why Weyland-Yutani would be interested in a predator, and why they would be on that planet looking for a Callus. Especially, not that they're connected, but the Noah Hawley series, Alien Earth, kind of doubles down on that idea of why Weyland-Yutani would be there. And it just clicks so naturally. And I feel like this world that people have been such fans of for so many years is all aligning in the right possible ways. So, Dan Trachtenberg, I hope you still remain in this universe. Not saying you can't do other things, because you'll bring some other magic to the table, but also don't put this toy back in the box. you've done a real wonder with this, and you've brought a lot of really talented actors into this world, and I look forward to seeing what you continue to build. And Ellie Fanning, Demetrius, you guys did a fantastic job, and I hope to see you guys reteam in multiple adventures and sequels. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.